Hi, Sean here, one half of Sean and Kiara. We are the co-creators of Lucy in the Sky, a graphic novel for middle grade readers published by First Second. Our second graphic novel, Rhiannon, will be out in October of 2025. If you like the things we do, please consider supporting us by becoming a paying member of our Patreon site for $4 a month. And if you enjoy videos like this, hit the like and subscribe buttons, as it'll help us build this channel. Thank you, and enjoy the video. Hello, Sean here. Welcome back to another episode of Reading Batman. And we're going to look at another classic story from the Silver Age, which is probably my favorite Batman era, just because of its looniness, its zaniness, and the outlandish direction that the stories took during this time. And those of you who are familiar with American comic book history are probably familiar with what happened in the 1950s in comics in this country. And that was the publication of a book called Seduction of the Innocent, which I think was in 1954. And it was by a German-American psychiatrist by the name of Frederick Wertham. And it was his thesis that American comic books were contributing to juvenile delinquency and were just an overall bad influence on American children and responsible for all sorts of things. And he sort of laid out his case and made note of particulars within certain comics, and it really kind of put the comic book industry in this country into a tailspin. Resulted in a congressional inquiry into the effects of comics on kids, and ultimately led to American comics self-censoring and establishing the Comics Code Authority, which lasted for decades and was a way for the comics publishers, at least the big ones, to self-police, and was tied into distribution. So if you didn't follow this code, you couldn't get distribution, your comics couldn't get sold, and so forth. So it was really kind of a dark era in the sense for comics that, you know, you really couldn't explore. There were certain things that were taboo anymore, and so comics took a much more kid-friendly, sillier turn. And you know, Batman, which originally was meant to be very dark. The whole premise behind it was this dark vigilante who dressed up in a bat costume who would stalk criminals at night, and so by the 1950s we have a very kid-friendly Batman. The way it's drawn is very cartoonish, although I really like the way it's drawn. There are certain artists that I really, really enjoy seeing their artwork. And one of the charges leveled against Batman was during this time was this suspicion was laid on Batman and Robin and the nature of their relationship, and there was a suggestion that it was homosexual or pedophilic, and so in order for DC Comics to distance itself from these charges, one thing that they did was they established kind of a family for Batman, including some female side characters. And so today we're going to look at the first of these, Batwoman. So, you know, later on in the 60s, Batgirl came along, Commissioner Gordon's daughter, Barbara Gordon, and most are familiar with that Batgirl. But before that Batgirl, there was another Batgirl and a Batwoman, and in fact Batwoman was the first to come along. And we're going to look at her first appearance in Detective Comics, number 233. And here we see her on the cover. Like the later Batgirl, she drives a motorcycle, although I always found it interesting that her color scheme, red and yellow, there's this idea that the good guys in superhero comics, they have to stay with the primary colors. So if blue is already used for Batman, then in order for Batwoman to stand out, you have to give her a different color scheme. And red and yellow are not the colors that I would normally think of in association with a bat, but there she is. Well, I really like her motorcycle. It's kind of a cool design with a sort of the scalloped wing design on the handlebar and over the back wheel. And the splash page. So we get again one of these things that Bill Finger was famous for in writing his Batman scripts, incorporating giant props. They were always fighting these sort of giant props or giant monstrous beings of some sort. And here we have what looks like a giant robot with about ready to stomp Batman into the ground. Robin, of course, is incapacitated up there in his hand, and to the rescue comes Batwoman. She says, "Don't worry, Batman and Robin, I'll save you." So the story opens with Bruce Wayne and Dick Grayson seeing the bat signal, and we get a little bit of information here about how the bat signal is used. He says it's sweeping southward, which tells them that something's happening at the new air terminal, which I guess is in that direction. So they jump in their Batmobile and race out of the Batcave, but the thieves at the air terminal are already being confronted by someone that they've never seen before. They think it's Batman, and they realize that it's a woman. No, it's a Batwoman. And when they realize that it's a Batwoman, they start laughing. They say, "Wow, what can she do?" But of course she shows them, and she pulls out a couple of her bat weapons, and right with the sexism of the time. So Batwoman, the types of things she uses is a powder puff from her makeup compact that she takes out, and causes a cloud of dust to engulf one of the thieves. And then she takes some charm bracelets, which are really disguised steel handcuffs, and cuffs them. And all of this before Batman and Robin are able to come out on the scene. And she runs out before they can stop her and question her. And as she's leaving Batman here, we also get another little... I like all these little bits of information that are sprinkled throughout. According to the law of Gotham City, nobody can wear a Batman costume except Batman, I guess. So he's telling her that she's breaking the law and she cannot be doing this. But she responds that, "Well, you're wrong. The law says no man can wear it, but I'm a woman." And as she races off, she warns them that if they ever try to find out who she is, then they'll automatically be revealing their own identity to her. So a little bit of a enigmatic warning to them. And then in their next encounter at a world premiere of a movie, a big movie star at the world premiere who has some diamonds, and as Batman swings down to get the thief, Robin warns him that he's about ready to shoot him, but before the thief can do so, Batwoman appears and is able to blind the thief using her compact mirror. And then she races off again. And as Batman and Robin try to follow Batwoman's trail, they turn down a blind alley where we find that the rest of the jewel thief mob are waiting. They're going to corner him in that alley. But of course, Batwoman is ready to save Batman once again. She throws down some perfume from her perfume bottle, but it turns out to be tear gas, immobilizing the criminals, and She makes the paper that she has saved Batman once again. So Batman is looking bad. Well, of course, Batman is too noble to admit that her showing him up is making him look bad. He's more worried about the risk that she's taking on herself, and that the only thing that he can do is to expose her real identity to keep her from engaging in this dangerous crime-fighting activity that, of course, only a man like Batman should be involved in. So on the next page, we learn all of Batwoman's backstory. We learn that she has a wealthy inheritance, which has given her the money to kit out a Batcave underneath her house. She built her house on top of an old mine tunnel, which she's using as her own Batcave, and she's used her money to build her own crime lab and make her costume, and her background as a circus daredevil has given her the skills that she needs. And really we find out that the only reason that she has decided to do this is because she admires Batman and wants to be a crime fighter like him. And one little detail that we see here that just gets mentioned offhandedly as she enters into her Batcave is the giant portrait, self-portrait that guards her. She says it guards her Batcave for her, so we're left to wonder about that and why anybody would have a giant portrait of themselves like that. So she hurries upstairs. We learn that she's got to prepare for the swank party that she's giving. Nobody suspects that a socialite like her would be the Batwoman. And we're kind of left to wonder what was a socialite like her doing as a circus daredevil in the first place. And we see that Bruce Wayne knows Kathy Kane, who is the Batwoman, from they move in the same social circle, and he's already familiar with her, and in fact he is going to this party. And we see that Bruce and Kathy have a little bit of an attraction to each other, and they're wondering each in their own minds, what if she knew that I was the Batman that she speaks so admiringly of? Then, of course, the bat signal flashes in the sky, and they both have to make their excuses to go run off and change into their bat costumes. And we find that the next crime is happening at a place called the Tomorrow Club, which is a futuristic nightclub outside of town. And as Batman and Robin race off, they see that Batwoman has intercepted the police call as well, and in fact she's beating them to it by taking her motorcycle cross-country. As she arrives, she finds the patrons of the club fleeing in terror. There's a thug in there wrecking my place. He must be crazy. Batman and Robin arrive after her. They enter the club to find Batwoman there. Batman tries to persuade her to leave, but she says, "No, I might have to save you again." So as Robin stands guard outside, Batwoman and Batman search the interplanetary rooms. They narrowly miss being smashed by fake Martian idols, as they're called in the story. And then going into the next exhibit, the Venus World exhibit room, they find that foot tracks lead up to one of the fake robots in the room, which starts to come alive. Its hand knocks out Batman, and as the crook climbs out of the robot, Batwoman pulls another one of her bat weapons out of her purse, this time a hairnet, which she uses to trap the crook. And then going to tend to the unconscious Batman, Batwoman is tempted now to remove his mask and see who he is. But she stops herself. "No, I can't do it. He got stunned only because he tried to save me from a blow. I'm to blame for his plight. It wouldn't be fair of me to unmask him. And so Batman comes to, just as Robin runs on the scene. And Robin, as he comes in, he sees Batman in Batwoman's arms, and he says, "Batman, oh, maybe I'm intruding." Batman responds, "Don't be foolish." Batwoman captured the thug who was wrecking the place. As Batman and Robin leave the club with the police mopping up, Batman lets slip. Batman tells Robin that he's got some clues that might tell them who Batwoman really is. He says that she made 2 slips. She referred to scratch writers and trap artists. He says, later I'll show you how that clue will lead us to her identity. So off Batman and Robin and Batwoman go to their next crime in progress. And this time the crooks are in a blimp descending into the Mint. Batman and Robin and Batwoman come on the scene, and once again Batwoman saves the day, and this time she's taken the strap off her shoulder bag, which she uses as a bat bolo to stop the thugs. Back at the Batcave, Batman goes through his files. He tells Robin that those terms that Batwoman used, scratch writer and trap artist, are actually circus terms, and this means that she must be some kind of ex-circus performer. And indeed, he finds out that Kathy Kane was once a circus performer, and so he thinks that they have her identity at last. Looking at their maps of Gotham, he realizes that there's an old mine tunnel underneath Kathy's house, and that must be where her Batcave is. And so off they go. And when Batwoman arrives home, there's Batman and Robin to greet her, and she realizes that the jig is up, that they've discovered her identity, and Batman persuades Kathy that if he could discover her identity, then crooks could as well. And this is a good enough reason for her to give up her life as a crime fighter. And Batwoman responds, though, that while he has discovered her secret identity, unknowingly, he's revealed to her his own. She says that the giant portrait that she has of herself in the Batcave has cameras and instruments which take photos, X-ray pictures, and record the height and weight of everyone who comes in here. Batman realizes that armed with all that data, she'd have all the information she needs to trace his own real identity, but Batwoman, being a good sport, decides to hand the films and tapes over to Batman, swearing that she could never harm him. And so off they go, and back in their Batcave, Batman and Robin have a new trophy to add to their trophy room. They have the big portrait of Batwoman. And our closing line is delivered by Robin. He says, "I wonder if we'll ever fight crime with her as the dynamic trio again." Well, we'll see. Let's find out in the next episode of Reading Batman. Thank you for joining me.